Okay, so I've been wearing this knife for a little over a month, and I think it's a good time to do a review on it. So, just to get the specs out of the way, this is LC200N. It's been heat treated to 60 Rockwell hardness by Peter's Heat Treatment. The blade is 6¼ inches long, and then the handle is 4¼ inches. It's 2 inches wide. The handle material is Taro Tough, and the pins are G10. I think it's like 0.2 inches or 0.19 something inches thick, the steel itself. But yeah, so I designed this knife to be an EDC knife, and it's been working fine so far. It does have its problems, mainly its size, and its width, which turned into basically me trying to figure out how to wear this thing. At first, I just made a regular Kydex sheath and wore it scout carry like I do my work knives, even though this is not a work knife because of its grind. But at first, this is what I tried, and it works fine. I mean, you can wear it this way, no problem. It doesn't get in the way. It's small in comparison to the other ones I usually wear. And the way this works is you put your belt through these leather rectangles, and just wear it scout carry. But the problem with this is you can't really conceal carry this thing, because this is where your body is. The handle sticks out about this much, so yeah, so it is very, very visible. I had to redesign or design a sheath for it, and I came up with this. I wanted to make something that was a little bit more versatile and had like different functions, just so I can try different things and figure out what I wanted to actually, how I wanted to wear this thing. So I decided on a clip. Maybe later I'll add a belt loop to this thing. It's something I contemplated in the beginning, but decided against it just because of how low this thing is, because of this little latch here, this little loop. But maybe eventually later on. The only problem is, if I do put this like a belt loop here, it would have to be for a wide belt, just so that this doesn't sag, just because of how low this thing is and the weight is so unevenly distributed. But yeah, going back to the sheath, I wanted a latch that would unlatch on a downward push, so that way, or when I'm wearing it with the clip inside, you can't see this, but this way, it had to be downwards, because I'm like paranoid that if it was an upwards motion to unlatch this thing, I would, instead of just coming out with the knife, I would pull out the whole blade itself. This clip is pretty safe when you're actually going around your belt itself. If the belt is in here, that's fine. But if you're doing it in waistband or inside your pocket, and this is clipping outside the pocket, then there's a good chance you'll pull out the whole sheath with the knife itself if you go with an upwards detaching clip or whatever. I don't know how you would explain that exactly, but yeah, so it had to be down, and that makes it, for me, it makes it a little bit more trustworthy in that sort of sense. The way I found out this works the best is if I use jeans, I just put this in my pocket, and I'll have the clip just outside the pocket. And since this has a curvature, when I sit down, this will just twist sideways, and it'll go on the side of my hip, which is fine. If I'm wearing like Dickies and stuff like that, which the pockets on the pants are sideways, they're not like completely like I don't know, I would explain that, parallel to the ground. They're not parallel to the ground, they're at a slant. If you have Dickies, you'd know, I guess. Since I don't like wearing them that way, the handle sticks out way to the side, I wear it inside waistband, but it's also grabbing on, so it's grabbing my pants and my belt at the same time. So, but it's inside the waistband of my belt, the clip itself, and this is all on the outside. You can still see the bottom of the sheath, which is fine. I don't really care. But if I do want to conceal carry completely, then I do use this clip goes on the outside, holding the belt. So that's the other thing I had to keep in mind. So completely conceal carry, I didn't want this clip to be in a position where if this whole sheath is inside my waistband, I couldn't do ice pick grip. I couldn't pull out the knife blade first, because this thing is it's a 6 1/4 inch razor basically. So I couldn't go blade first out. I would have to go spine first out. So when I'm pulling it out, I'm going this way. All right, and talking about that, actually, I came across a problem that I didn't think about, and that was, okay, so to preface that, randomly, every now and then, for no reason, I like to pull out my knife as fast as I can. And when I'm alone, okay, just for the hell of it, just to see if I can do it. I'll be doing just random stuff. So I'll be working on something in the garage, and just to try to, I'll get in my head and I'll just try it. I did that, and I was wearing this on the outside of my pants with this holding my belt, this with the belt inside this. And so I did ice pick grip, and when I pulled it out forward, and I looked, and it basically cut into the corner of this leather strip in the center. So this is like a sandwich. You want this middle leather strip so it doesn't, your knife doesn't cut into the stitching itself. So that, needless to say, is a problem. The knife cutting like pretty deeply into a little middle part, and that's something that's like unavoidable. If you want to pull out your knife fast, that's gonna happen basically. So what I did was, I put this little rivet, and I compressed the leather enough, as much as I could, without it looking stupid, basically. And that helps with the blade not cutting the leather itself. So I could have compressed it more, but like I said, it would look dumb. It was too compressed. But I compressed it enough, I think, to avoid that. And I tried just cutting a little bit, or just, not cutting, but rubbing the knife up against it. And it's fine. It's way better than it was. And then the secondary thing you get is you get this little copper stud inside that it's not gonna, if you happen to put too much pressure, it's not gonna destroy your sheath. It's not gonna cut into the sheath or cut you basically. That's the main thing. It won't cut the person using the sheath. So yeah. All right. So that's that part. So now for design. So I wanted to go with a wider blade, because having a wider blade gives you two positives. One of them is it gives you more strength. So the way that works is the grind I did on this is a flat grind. So because I used a wider blade, the slope on this thing gradually becomes wider in the end. So the more distance you have from the edge, the thicker your steel is gonna be with that same edge, that same slope. If I would have gone half of this, it would have been, the spine of this knife would have been thinner than what I have now. So you get more strength, a little bit more rigidity that way by having a thicker spine to the knife itself. You also have more mass, more steel helping the blade, because you have that rigidity behind it, that material behind it too. In the second positive is you get more weight in the front, because once again, you have all that mass and stuff in the front. So if I would have done a thinner blade than this, I think this knife would feel like a pencil. As is, it still chop pretty well, even though I got that ripple. I got it from chopping a branch, like an actual, like probably like an 1.5 inch thick branch. So it works well for chopping. Not so good because of just how fragile the edge is, but it's done what I wanted it to, because of the size of the blade itself. The handle, I wanted to go with a slight curvature on the handle, and what this curvature does, it does once again two things. One is It brings down the tip down a bit, so you're not pointing the tip up in the air, which is what I like. If I cut things, I like to cut it with the tip. It does more damage that way. Second thing is you can get more area where you put your fingers on a handle if it has a bit of a curvature. So if this was a complete like sad face, I don't know if that I'm making any sense the way I'm explaining it, but if it was more curved, even more than this, then I would have more distance from one point to the other, which I could make this. I could have more distance on this handle at a shorter length. Maybe that makes sense. But yeah, so you can get a little bit more distance. You can make the handle a little bit shorter, and you can cut with the tip a lot easier. So that's what this. The reason I went with having the handle all the way to the top here is because I like when I do hit something, let's say I poke something, I like my hand to slam stop, to basically have a complete stop. I don't like stopping with friction. If possible, there's some designs that I can't really get around that, but I like something that basically brings your hand to a complete stop. And that's why I like hand guards. That's part of the reason. It gives you a platform that basically, if you use it on ice pick grip and you hit something, you stop, your hand basically stops completely, rather than sliding a bit or having friction stopping your hand. I think that just, maybe I'm thinking too much about this, but I think it transfers more energy. And the second thing is there's no way of cutting your hand, but having a wider surface to stop your hand is just better. It puts less of that force into your hand itself, having a wider surface. So this is my own version of thinking of a way of making what do you call it, a hand guard without using a hand guard, like an actual metal hand guard. So yeah. And then so last, I'll talk about LC200N. All right, so compared to Vanex, it is, so this is 60 Rockwell hardness. It's as hard as the Vanex I've used, and it feels softer in the sense that so it sharpens really well, nice edge. It actually keeps an edge really well too, so I've been surprised. Vanex still seems to keep an edge a little bit better. The main thing this has that Vanex doesn't, the main problem this has that Vanex doesn't is it's the edge isn't as tough. It's not as, I don't know if the word tough is the correct word to use. So there's toughness in the form of resisting breakage when you bend it. So you can bend something and it's still tough because it didn't break. But there's the toughness I'm talking about is tough at the edge, in which it resists deformation. So it's a lot easier to warp the edge on LC200N so far, from what I've seen, than it is Vanex. So I still like Vanex better, but I won't know until I make an actual like a large blade on this and use it for chopping and everything, and actually design it for that. I won't know until then. But yeah, so any questions, any suggestions, let me know. All right, bye.